Hi Jade, thanks so much for coming on Boss in Heels.
Thank you for having me. I was saying to my assistant before, this is like the nicest setting I've been on. I feel like I'm on a talk show. It feels.
That was the idea with it, to be honest.
I feel very comfortable. I feel famous. It's a bit of a glamour show. I love it. It's beautiful.
It is quite glamorous. It's all about Boss in Heels, and you're certainly dressed for the part, and you look incredible.
Thank you, but impractically, because we have had a bit of a moment, haven't we? I've been walking up the stairs on a side. It's not a very practical outfit, but
the things that we do for beauty, honestly, I mean, it looks amazing. So
Thank you. You look beautiful as well.
Thank you very much. I was so excited and really anxiously anticipating to have this conversation with you today because you've had such an amazing story. You've achieved so many incredible things. Most recently, I know that you and Amal achieved Forbes 30 under 30, which is such a sensational accomplishment. And I just love everything about your story and everything that you guys have really done to sort of get to the point today. And I really wanted to unpack a lot of that with you today and really get to know the real Jade. And we were sort of talking outside before we started recording, everyone I think knows the Equalution story.
Yeah, definitely.
Everyone knows the story of you and Amal, going to Google and then quitting your jobs and going to the US and then kind of coming back and, starting what is now, this empire effectively. And I really want to kind of get into the nuts and bolts of, who Jade is and what kind of made you the person, the woman that we see today. And I thought a good place to start could be maybe to ask you around, how do you think this entrepreneurial spirit or this fire or this passion really came from? When you kind of go back to your childhood and some of your earlier experiences, was it a family thing? Did you have any role models? Where do you think that came from?
Well, I feel look, on the note of what you've just mentioned in terms of just the evolution of the Equalution story and whatnot, and even just being in a place now where I'm 29 and I guess my title is entrepreneur, I feel like it's just as much a personal journey as it is a business journey. I think when you're maybe a bit younger, I think there's people that have a little something in them. I think it's an energy thing. I think it's a little bit of a hunger thing. It's a little bit of a thinking outside of the box and then also connecting with other people. And I just think there's people that are born with a sense of, I don't know what it is right now, what I want to do, but I know that I want to do something of impact. And I was always that kid, I was always sort of looking around. And when I was at school and I had my first job, I always had a couple of others on the side and things like that. So I think there was little signs that, things for me were not going to look conventional. But in saying that as well, one thing I always stress to, people that listen to my podcast and whatnot, it's that I guess nature and that energy and that zest and opportunity is instilled in everyone. I don't think, I had an extra advantage or I'm an extra special person or anything like that. I definitely believe in myself and I definitely back myself, as does my business partner, Amal. We had a lot of confidence in what we were bringing to the market. But I do believe that if you want something, I think it just starts at a want, and then how it executes is really just your hunger and your drive to make it all happen.
Yeah.
And I had that when I was a kid. I just wanted to do something. I just had a lot of energy in a lot of different ways. I had a lot of spiritual energy. I had a lot of academic energy. I just wanted to do something, and it just took really, I guess, my experience with dieting and fat loss, meeting Amal, all the stars aligning, that whole story, I guess, came to fruition. And then in the health and fitness space, it's my thing now.
Yeah, I love that. And I'm such a big believer of just energy and the importance of energy and how everything is energy. So I really relate to what you're saying. And how do you feel like you've really been able to tap into that or bring out more of that as you've kind of gone through, these various stages of your career and your life? Are there particular practices or things or moments that you can think of?
I think overall now, as I think it's a really big call to make, to sit with yourself and say, I'm happy. And I think at 29, I'm at a point now in my life where there's been a lot of highs, there's been a lot of low lows. You would understand being in business, it can get really dark at times. But coming out the other side, I can definitely say that I'm happy and I'm very content, not stopping anytime soon. I have a lot of plans in terms of, future ventures and whatnot. But I think the journey to happiness, I think the milestones are the low points, I really believe.
Yeah.
And I think some of those real turning points were the real definers for me. One of my biggest ones was my value and my perception of money and how that changed over the years. Because when I started the business with Amal, we never, ever, ever did it because we wanted to hit it big time or, take over the world in a monetary sense. We had a passion and we had a message and we wanted to share it with the world. And we found a dieting practice that worked for us. And we empathized with those young girls who cut carbs, who tried every fad diet under the sun. And to find the answer and to be, the proof in the pudding in losing 50 kilos together, we were like, the world needs to know about this.
Yeah.
So we started with really good intent. We started with a real passion. And then, of course, as the business grew and it became more successful, I think you realize that there's a lot of emptiness in a lot of things that people who are successful in business would once upon a time define as success. The bigger the staff base grew, you think you've got this huge team and that means success, but that actually means more overheads, and then you pay taxes, and then that can be stressful, and then you lose a lot of time out with your family because you're just burning the candle at both ends in your business. So I think like a lot of the glamour of owning a business and having a big one at that, I think the change in perception of that and just going through some really dark, lonely times with what I thought was going to be quite fulfilling was a big definer for me as an entrepreneur.
Yeah, and I think it's so important to talk about some of those tougher periods in business, in life, because I think it's so easy for people to look at you and Amal and, similar entrepreneurs and think, oh my gosh, these girls are, on top of the world. Look at all this incredible success. Maybe people might think, oh, you just got lucky, or it happened overnight.
Yeah, that's a big one,
which is such a common theme which comes through, and they don't see all the years of sacrifices. And I've had a separate conversation with Amal where she shared, the fact that her early 20s were, the two of you, there was no early 20s. And she actually shared a story, I think, of the two of you working until 4 o'clock in the morning. And then when you came out of work, everyone was like, lining up at the casino.
It happened. It happened. So we actually had an office, which was on one of the wharves at Piedmont across the road from the casino. And we there was a time where it was really tough hour-wise. The demand was here and our resources were here. And it wasn't because we couldn't afford to put on more staff. It was just, there was no time. There was no time to even hire, which is like, it's not the worst problem to have so many people that are seeing after what you're offering on the market, but it was just very taxing. We were working really hard, and we came out of the office, and there's people lining up, coming out of the casino, getting a taxi after a big night out, and it hit home. I had a lot of sad times. Like it was, to be honest with you, there was a lot of Sundays where just wanted a break, just even a little bit of a sleep in or something like that, and we were doing some big hours. But we did it together. And I think, no matter where our journeys as businesswomen go or where Equalution goes, the fundamental part of our story to date has been the fact that we did it hand in hand. And I think that was really important. I know there's a lot of questions around, having business partners and friends in business and family in business and stuff. But then I think about, at the core of the times that were our absolute toughest, we had myself, Amal, my sister, who was our first employee and who still does work for us, and one of our other friends who has become like a girlfriend, Beck. She was one of our first staff, and a couple of other girls, and we all became like best friends, and we were just hustling through that work like there was no tomorrow. And I don't know when the day started, and I don't know when the day finished, and I don't know when there was Monday, and I don't know when there was Sunday. They just kind of all rolled.
They all blurred into each other.
But it was really hard.
Yeah.
And it was really lonely. It was really
Yeah.
lonely.
Could you talk about maybe some of that loneliness or some of the tougher periods that
Yeah.
you've personally experienced and how you've actually been able to come out of it? Because
Yep.
you said one really important thing earlier, and that is that you feel happy now.
Yeah.
You know, you feel so content. And I think that is, I mean, for me, I think that's, you know, the ultimate
Yeah.
definition of success is to get to that place that you feel so content and
Yeah.
happy within yourself.
Definitely.
And
That's a lot of self-discovery as well.
Oh,
I think it's like,
yeah.
it's sort of like, what do you define as happiness? You know, because if you would have asked me at 20 years old when, you know, I was starting, you know, coming into the business space, if you would have said, what does happiness look like for you in the context of business, I would have said a big business and, you know, people are like loving what I'm offering and I've got lots of clients and, you know, money's not an issue and all that kind of stuff like that. That would have been my criteria. Whereas I think you get a more holistic approach as you get older and more mature and you experience those highs and lows.
Oh,
I think
completely.
you just, your mind opens up. You just think like there's so much more to it than just that. One thing I will say is Amal and I were really fortunate to be in a space where our business stood for something. And even now, like I'm saying this and I'm getting goosebumps because the Equalution message is so strong. And throughout our whole journey, through the highs and lows, I felt like we had little reminders of our whys throughout the entire experience, whether it be something as simple as meeting a client and then being like, I did Equalution, I lost 10 kilos, it literally changed my life. Or someone getting on social media and going behind the camera on Instagram, which is a huge thing for a lot of girls, even just on a confidence front. And just being in tears and saying this program has changed my life. So we were really lucky in the sense that we had a lot of reminders as to our why and our get up and go every day along the way. That was the positives. You know, it was a business, it is a business that stands for something so strong. And I'll be forever proud of the impact that it's had for that reason. And then I think in terms of the flip side of that though, Amal and I were pursuing this, you know, this growth and this message and trying to push it out there at our growth periods. Like we were 21, 22, you know, going through our early 20s. Our girlfriends were partying. People were falling in love. Even today, even to this day, you know, some of my best girlfriends are getting married and having kids, and it's beautiful. That is a whole nother dimension of life that I'm so excited for. But it hasn't happened for me yet because on my timeline, it just looked a little bit unconventional.
Yeah.
It happened differently, you know?
It did. And there's nothing wrong with that.
No.
And I think that's why these kinds of conversations are so helpful because I think that so often we're sort of living life on other people's time frame. We're living life on other people's framework. You know, what are those people's expectations of us, but what about what you want?
It's like a comparison game, right?
It is.
Yeah, and I think social media has played a big part in it, but then I also think there's a lot of tradition that is instilled in us, and I think that as a generation, I think that we're part of a bit of a shift. You know, like if you think about, you know, from when we were kids to now, there's been, you know, the movement of technology, entrepreneurs, more hunger, more drive. I remember one of the first things that Amal and I did when we decided that we wanted to take Equalution as far and wide as we possibly could was we quit our full-time jobs and we took a one-way ticket to San Francisco and we went to Silicon Valley because we wanted to make an app and apparently that's where it was done. So we did that wild thing, right? And even going into Silicon Valley, the minds and the purpose behind these people are just that powerful that you could not walk out of that environment and not be inspired. So I think that we as a generation have been really fortunate to be on the forefront of social movement and change. And that's been really inspiring. Whereas, you know, for our parents and their parents and whatnot, it was a bit of a checkbox lifestyle.
Oh, completely. And they did not have the same sort of opportunities that we've been afforded today. And I think the other really important piece of this as well is more equality when it comes to, you know, women in the workplace and those types of things as well, because we're moving more towards more equality and taking on more equal roles and equal positions. And so it's like those traditional roles of, you know, the man being the primary breadwinner and the woman staying at home and, you know, looking after the kids and keeping a house. those kinds of
It's
constructs are
shifted.
shifting,
Yeah, it's
and
true.
there's more balance, I think, and that's why we're able to actually kind of be like, you know what, I'm not just going to support you and your dreams.
Like
I have my
manifest these
own
dreams.
dreams
Yeah,
as well.
for
And I
sure.
think when you can kind of come together and find someone that's maybe on that same, you know, wavelength as you, I think that's a really kind of
It's
powerful
true.
place to operate
Yeah,
from.
and I think as you grow in your business journey and in your personal journey, more of those like-minded people start to come in along the way.
Yeah.
You know, I think people come into people's lives for different reasons, whether that be, I like to think of personal and business sometimes intertwined, because I do believe that the better person you are, the better businesswoman you are, and the more empathetic businesswoman you are and whatnot. So I do believe that people come into the equation, you know, at different times for different reasons, and it's a lot of social maturity. In the term of being a woman in business, I think there's a lot more self-belief out there as well. Like, I think a lot of people, you know, there's a lot of self-doubt, and there's people that are probably sitting on amazing ideas and don't have the confidence to be able to go and pursue those. And I hope things like this do help them.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm really passionate about being quite vocal about our journey and whatnot. But then second to that as well, I also think, yeah, it's a self-confidence piece. I have been asked in the past before, you know, how does it feel being a woman in business? And I always say it feels the same as being a man in business, because I didn't stop myself in my tracks because I was a girl, you know.
Yeah.
Like I never thought, Amal and I have never thought about our gender, ever.
It's never come into the equation.
Not once.
Yeah.
Not once.
Nor should it. Nor should it have to.
And you know, we I remember when we went to San Francisco, and we were little pups at this time, and we had this business idea which was sexy. Like, it was hot at the time. You know, everyone was eating chicken and broccoli, and we were like, we have a mathematical equation where you can eat the foods that you love and you can still achieve your results. And we started vocalizing this at our networking events and whatnot in San Francisco. And we had a whole table of like older men with cash in their back pocket saying, you know, can we buy in? And we were just like, nah, we're going to do it on our own. And like, there was sort of like,
Wow.
there was always this sense of like self-confidence, and we had empowerment. Like, we just knew that we could, so we did.
Yeah.
And I think that is a lot of, you know, I think that is really common in a lot of business people. It's sort of just like, no one and nothing will stop them if they set their mind to something. And you can usually date that back to maybe what they were like when they were kids, or
completely,
you know, like their academic practices at high school or whatnot. But yeah, we just had this real go-getter kind of
such tenacity.
We did.
Yeah.
And it was never, sometimes it was not even in sync. Like, Amal was a lot stronger in a lot of senses than I was in the early days, because all I thought about sometimes was just like, how the fuck am I going to pay these bills? We've got bills, and like, we just have an idea at this point, and we have no customers. And Amal was always just like, it's going to work. It's going to work. And her dad is a businessman as well, and that's his mentality. He's just like it will always work. You know, if you back it, if you like, he has no worries. And so that sort
you
of,
can see how that's then transpired to Amal. Yeah.
And then she put that in me, and now that's how I am. Like, it's crazy. Yeah.
It's that absolute self-belief.
It is.
That you're going to make it.
Yeah.
Like, and I don't think that that's arrogance. I think that that is
not
just
all.
actually self-belief, and actually knowing that you're here for a much
purpose.
bigger purpose.
Yeah.
And I think, like, I know from my personal experience, that's what really fuels me, is knowing that everything that I do is purpose driven.
Yeah, definitely.
You know, and then it's like, there's no option of quitting.
Yeah.
There's no option of, you know, not doing it, because this is what I was supposed to do all along.
And it's funny, because I was having a conversation in an earlier podcast that I did about this self-belief and this self-confidence, because I do believe that there's, you know, there's the dreamers and the doers and the people that ignite these sorts of changes. And, you know, you look at their self-belief in themselves, and you sort of look at it as an unattainable confidence that is just like untouchable. And by no means do business people or people that have achieved success put themselves on a pedestal and say that, I'm the bee's knees, those people, I can guarantee you, are usually the hardest on themselves. And Amal and I, throughout not only our business journey, but our personal journey, because as I said to you, it has been a simultaneous experience and journey for the both of us. We're so hard on ourselves, we're really, really hard on ourselves, and we're never done. We're never, sort of like, I'm not going to say never satisfied, but we're always going for the next thing, whether that looks like another business milestone, or whether that looks like, picking up a book because you want to, refeed your brain. The people that achieve success, they speak so confidently, and it doesn't come from a place of arrogance. I can guarantee you it comes from a place of self-awareness and really putting a lot of pressure on yourself for self-improvement. Really, really strongly putting that pressure on.
Yeah, I can relate to that. And that's something that I'm so passionate about talking about, because like personal development is such a huge part of my life. And I think without kind of investing in myself in that way, I wouldn't be able to achieve the things that I'm achieving now, and I'm a big believer in having that growth mindset and always kind of being the student, always, like you said, picking up a book or educating yourself on something new. And that's really going to help drive you to kind of move to that next level. On that point, like, are there any particular practices or any particular, personal development or things that you've done to invest that you think have really helped you?
Look, I'm going to say, and this is very relevant to our industry and also what we practice in terms of healthy, balanced nutrition. But one thing that was a blessing and a curse for Amal and I was our relationship with food and our relationship with our bodies, which in turn was our relationships with ourselves. So it's been a really long, windy road, and thank heavens we've done it like together, because we have grown together. But when we first started in the industry, we were sad, restrictive dieters that just were not happy with our bodies. And I think that's why we are so passionate about Equalution and all it stands for today, is because that's the place that we came from. And in going through a weight loss journey, you go through a number of emotions. You go through, I'm not good enough. You define yourself by an aesthetic, whereas there's so much more to you than the vessel. It's like there is so much more to it than that. And I think for us, like, a big turning point has been creating a really good relationship with ourselves in terms of food, and in terms of, not being all about, just chasing a number on the scale. And again, why I'm hugely passionate about what Equalution stands for too, because, health is a number of pillars. It's not just, the number on the scale you are. It's not just having one healthy meal. It's about being a healthy person. So I think in nailing pillars of health, I think that's allowed us to be, not done, but the better version and the best version of ourselves. And so for me personally, and I know for Amal, diet and exercise are hugely important. They're remedial for us as much as they are pragmatic, in the sense that they have to be nailed, or else we're just a heap of mess. If we're dieting super restrictively, not that we do that, because obviously we're advocates for Equalution, but if we were to be dieting super restrictively and like under eating or whatnot, energetically we'd be drained. We wouldn't be the best, decision makers. We wouldn't be sharp. We might be edgy and whatnot. So I think nutrition's hugely important. Daily movement and training is huge for both of us, and that looks different for her and I on a daily basis. We love to thrash ourselves, but then we also love to go for a walk and, clear the mind and just be active and just moving, and just that ultimately makes you feel healthy. And then of course you've got, water, sleep. It's funny. It's just so basic.
The fundamentals.
It's so, it is so basic. And I guess that's almost a blessing, because I'm not going to sit here and say the key to success is this huge windy formula that's exclusive to just a minority of people to actually achieve. It's the byproduct of doing the same thing on a daily basis, compounded.
Absolutely. And I'm such a big believer of habits, and I've got a really stringent morning routine. And I love getting into like the detail of like specifically what that looks like. So
Yeah.
I was wondering if you could maybe share, like,
Yeah.
with our audience, like, what does that, like, what time do you wake up? Like, what are the specific
Yep.
set of things that you do? Because I feel like you're quite big on this as well.
I am, yeah.
And then, how does that then kind of transpire into your day, and then even into like wind down, like nighttime routines?
I feel like business operating systems and life operating systems very much go hand in hand. So I guess like as as structured as you may be in a morning routine, you're likely going to be that way inclined on the business day, I guess, on if you could put it in any way. What I will say before I do say this is not every day is perfect. And one thing that I have been quite open with in, recent years and whatnot is mental health. And it's not something that has always come really naturally to me in being on a super high vibration at all times. I think it's something that, you have to work on, and it's kind of like paying rent, right? You have to show up each week and you have to pay your dues, and then in return, you get a place to stay that's reflective of whatever you put in. And I feel very much that way about mental health. So in going through waves with that over the years, and the definition of happiness, and having empty moments in business, but then also having super fulfilling moments and highs and lows and all that kind of stuff, I will say that, like, I'm going to tell you what a great morning looks like for me, but there's also been some really bad mornings as well. There's also been mornings where I've woken up and I've just felt so overwhelmed with stress and anxieties, and even just a little bit of self-doubt. I mean, like, being part of a growing business, you have moments where you're like, is this above me? Is this beyond me? Like, is this just too big for me now? Like, and you have those moments, but it's all about the composure, and then not only what you do that day, but then what you do the next day. Because if one day doesn't look good, you get the opportunity to do it all again the next day. So for me, for example, this morning, I got up at 3:45, which is ridiculous. And it doesn't.
You're in the threes.
I'm in the threes. It doesn't happen. This is what I'm trying to tell you. Like,
it doesn't happen all the time.
This does not happen all the time.
Yeah.
But for the purpose of today's a big day for me, and so that's what it looked like. And you know what's funny as well? When I'm excited about my day, getting up is a piece of cake. It's almost the easiest.
That.
It's almost the easiest part of the day.
You can't wait to get your day started.
One of my best friends who runs a super cool clothing label, his name's Isaac. I do a lot of podcasting with him. Isaac's definition of what you define as like happiness and success is how excited are you in those first 5 seconds of the day.
Oh, I love that.
And it's something that I've really like taken with me, because I do agree with that. And like this morning, for example, when my alarm went off, like, I sprung out of bed because I had podcast after I firstly had a grouse training session, and then I had podcast after podcast. I've got a really cool business meeting today. I planned my work day yesterday for today, and it's just cool. Like, it's just fun stuff in terms of like content creation and whatnot. And of course, you get the dregs of like emails and stuff that you don't really want to deal with, but you knock those off first. And the day's looking good today. So today is a good day.
Yeah.
So this morning was a good morning. I always train. I always move. As soon as I get up, I train. And so this morning I got up at 3:45. I did a session at 5 a.m. I actually did double sessions. So my gym does.
You're on fire.
But I'm just telling you,
it's not always, I know, but you're having a good day.
This is not always like this. I even got up, when I got up at 3:45 this morning, I even food prepped. I got 5 outfits. I'm looking at Bree. Bree, my assistant, is in the house, and she can nod and say, this is not every day. I'm never this organized. But like, it's a special day. No, but truly, that's what I'm trying to say. It's like, if you love what you do, these habits sound so wild, but they're so easy when you love what you do.
Yeah.
And today is a cherry on the cake kind of day for me in terms of like, a fun business day. But I mean, like, there's other days where you're sitting in accounting meetings for a couple of hours, crunching numbers and talking forecasts. And that to me is just like, whoa.
Yeah.
And my energy at the beginning of the day might be a little bit different. But anyway, back to the morning routine. One thing that I always do is I always train. So whether that's 5 a.m., 6 a.m. or 7 a.m., before I get into work, there's always a session.
What specifically do you like to do? Do you mix it up every day, or do you have like certain days that you do certain workouts? Or
Well, I've just started training at a new facility back where I used to live in the Shire, and it's called the Yard, and it's a kind of mix between strength and conditioning. So they've got strength classes and conditioning classes as well. And I just love thrashing myself. Like, I honestly really love like gasping for my last breath and getting my heart rate to a point
I
where
can relate.
honestly, I know it's not for everyone,
Yeah.
but that's just like, I think that's also a time optimization thing as well. It's like, if you've got a bracket, a small window, and also I understand calories too, because obviously
Of
Equalution.
course.
So I'm just like, you maximize that time that you've got in that gym, and then you get out of there, you know? So yeah, and I also live, I'm really lucky to live by the beach as well. So some mornings look like a coastal walk, and then I might train at night. But I guess that's the beauty of being self-employed, hey? You can kind of like navigate your day.
Yeah.
As
Can
you
structure
please.
it how you see fit.
Correct.
Yeah.
So if the morning doesn't go to plan, you just do some makeup in the afternoon.
Yeah, you just adjust it and course correct later on. Yeah, because you can.
Yeah. So anyway, so this morning I trained, and then I food prepped, because I find when I have like lots of back-to-backs or just like busy days, I might just eat like inconsistently. Like, I might go for like, for example, just like a quick bar or something like that over like something with a bit more nutrient density. I just feel better when I eat better, and that's what I practice. So
you're practicing what you're preaching,
Exactly.
which is amazing.
Yeah,
You're in
so
alignment.
100%. So food prep this morning, and then when I got to work, I actually planned my day, which again is just sometimes it happens and sometimes it doesn't. And then busted out a podcast, and here I am now. But I will say one thing. I went to a psychic a couple of weeks back, and I am a bit spiritual, a little bit woo-woo. And one thing...
There's nothing wrong with that.
You've got to believe in... If you're going to believe in yourself, you've got to believe in something backing you as well.
I agree.
So that's always been my system of beliefs, is like, I don't know what it is, but...
You believe in something bigger than yourself.
The universe has my back. That's
yeah,
what I
I
feel.
love that.
Anyway, so this psychic told me to do 10 gratefuls of a morning and 3 I forgives. So she said, and 10 gratefuls is a lot. And what that allows you to do is really get quite specific with them. So instead of just saying, I'm grateful for my business, you might say, you know, I'm grateful for a particular staff member in my business that, you know, is just feeding your soul at that time, or something like that. So anyway, so I have literally in my diary every day, I've been doing 10 gratefuls and 3 I forgives. And the 10 gratefuls acknowledge what you're blessed for, and then the 3 I forgives is just letting go of just stuff that's just negative, you know? That ex-boyfriend that broke your heart, or, you know, someone that double-crossed you the day before, or something like that, or, you know, a customer that sent a nasty email or something.
Someone who cut you off in traffic, you know, the
whatever
list goes
it looks
on.
like, you know?
It's like, how much energy are you going to give that thing as well?
Exactly. And so she says, you be grateful, and then once you've given your forgiveness, then
it's a great practice.
Kind of just
it's done. Yeah, it's not in your space anymore. I love that. And talking about, like, you know, routines and structuring your day and some of these practices and things like that, I feel like, you know, you come across to me as someone who is quite disciplined, and you've had to exhibit a lot of discipline in your life. You know, if you sort of look back to, you know, your dieting story and weight loss journey through to everything that you've achieved in business. What's your relationship, I suppose, with discipline like, and how do you view discipline? Because I know some people think of the word discipline or routine, and then they want to run the other way. They couldn't think of anything worse. But where I kind of see it, I think, you know, discipline actually sort of equals freedom, because when you kind of structure yourself a certain way, or you commit to certain things, or like you said, those habits compounding over certain days, you know that it's for a greater purpose. I'd love if you could maybe share some of your thoughts around that and your relationship around discipline.
Definitely. I weirdly thrive in the real, like, hard times. Like, I feel like that's when my growth happens. Like, I might break down, or I might, you know, on the outskirts, usually just to Brie, really. Poor Brie. My
Brie hears
my
it all.
amazing backbone assistant, Brie, like, will hear and soundboard, you know, all the emotion of it all. But I think even in knowing me through and through, like she would even vouch that that's probably when the most change happens. I don't like getting comfortable. I really like getting uncomfortable, and I think discipline is a byproduct of discomfort. I think it's something that, you know, you really have to, you don't have a friendship with it. It's there to take you from A to B, next level. And I've found in my business journey, in my personal journey, that sometimes it has taken, you know, the inevitable or something even so unpredictable that's in a negative sense to kind of like really invigorate and get aggressive when it comes to discipline. Like that's, use a fat loss journey as an example. Like it literally took standing on the scales and seeing the highest number that I've ever seen before for me to be like, okay, that's it. I'm never seeing that number again. And that's a lot of people's journey too when it comes to fat loss, I will say. So yeah, I think discipline is something that is like antagonized. You know, I think it's instilled in you. And I have days where I'm more disciplined than others. But when I really see it do its thing, it's usually when I'm under pressure.
That's such a great way of framing it. And for people, a comment that I hear made a lot is people saying, you know, things to the effect of, you know, it's really easy for me to start something, but I find it hard to stick with something. Yep. What would be, whether it's, you know, in the weight loss space, in any other aspect, business related, what would be your advice to those kinds of people?
Oh, literally, firstly, I get you, I hear you, because I automatically go to the weight loss journey and the dieting space when I hear something like that, because the common denominator throughout anything that someone can't stick to is the mere fact that it's unsustainable. You know, I was my hardest working when I was working from, as Amal told you, you know, we would start at 6 a.m. We finished at 4 a.m. the next morning. We'd get maybe 1 to 2 hours of sleep at a time. And then we'd go again. And some nights we didn't even sleep. Some nights we had to pull all-nighters. And this isn't because we were, you know, doing anything inefficiently. This is just we had no processes. We were growing as a company and we had so much demand. And we just had to do what we had to do to make it work. So that's when I worked physically my hardest. So I had probably the most discipline and whatnot that I had then, but I had the least amount of balance. And for that reason, there's no way I could have kept doing that for tens of years. No way in hell. So I think, you know, a lot of, it's just balance. It's balance. My business motto is 80% whole food, 20% soul food. So 80% food for your body, for, you know, nutritional purposes and meeting the needs of your body for optimal function. But then 20% soul food, because that's what will keep you sticking to that diet, and that's what science allows for. And I think that can be translated to life itself. I think anything that you can't stick out, it doesn't matter if you're a superhuman. You need to be able to have sustainability in what you're doing.
I could not agree with that more. And I think the idea of applying that 80-20 philosophy to anything that you do is such a great, powerful tool to deploy, and that's easy for anyone to put into practice. So I really love that. And talking about business and all of those kinds of things, because like we touched on earlier, you know, it looks like, you know, from an outsider's perspective, people might think, you know, you guys have achieved all this amazing success and all of these great things have been happening for you guys. And I really kind of wanted to ask, you know, a question that comes up a lot is, you know, advice for, you know, young budding entrepreneurs. You know, what I see is a lot of people that, you know, have come up with, you know, great ideas.
Yep.
There's a lot of great ideas that are floating around in this world.
Yep.
But then it takes for a certain type of person, I think, to take that, you know, back of a napkin idea and to actually execute on it, to actually make that vision come into fruition. So what would be your advice for anyone who's wanting to go on that journey? Maybe they have a really great idea, but they're not quite sure either how to go about it or what to do, or any kind of insight that you could share around that would be awesome.
Something that really stuck with me, I heard in a podcast from the founder of Netflix, and he said, of course, like when you're a business person, a lot of people come to you with great ideas. It happens all the time, and I love it. Like, I think that if there's anyone that's thinking outside the box, or anyone that thinks that they, might want to be part of a change or a social movement, or they believe in something, kudos to them. And in future, when I do mentoring and whatnot, I will always harvest those ideas in a positive light, even if there's flaws in the execution strategy, or even if there's no strategy, because I don't think that you can ever dim someone's light when they're thinking in such a very special way. So I think to have an idea to begin with is a fantastic thing. But in terms of going forth with that idea, when I listened to the founder of Netflix talk about it, it was great. He said he had a girl come to him, obviously in the US market, and she said, I've got this idea, like I've got all these clothes and I'm in college, and like I'm thinking I want to like rent them out to people. I think it'd be a great idea, and I want to start with like a seed fund. Like I want to do a raise. I want to raise. And he said, you know where the best thing to start would be, like the best place to start would be? He said, get yourself a piece of paper, get yourself a Sharpie, and get yourself some Scotch tape. And he said, write yourself a sign on your college door that says, want to rent my clothes. Stick it up there. And he said, if you've got people coming through that want to rent your clothes, then you've got a demand. You've got people that want what you're offering. And then he said, and you know what? When you get your favorite top back on Tuesday, and it's dirty and you've got to take it to the dry cleaners, and you don't like how it's been brought back with a hole in it, then you're going to understand what might really irk you about this business idea, and what might become problematic, and what might you need to decide on before you go forth with an execution plan or putting any sort of money in this. And he said it all just starts from getting your first customers. And I think that is always really good advice to a budding entrepreneur. I think ideas are phenomenal. And like I said, I take my hat off to anyone who's sitting there thinking about how can I make the world a better place, or, how can I, make some sort of change. But in saying that as well, there needs to be some validity in the idea. And I also think off the back end of that, if you're someone that's sitting there and you want to get rich, or you want to do it for the money, I think there needs to be a reassessment in terms of the intention as well. So it's a few different dimensions to that answer, but I think ultimately you need to have a sturdy idea that's backed by validation, and I think you need to be in it for the right reasons. And that will always be something that a good person will get the opportunity to do. I think the universe gives the right people the right benefits in life. I really believe in the law of karma, and I think if you're a good person, you'll get out of life what you put into it.
What you put in is what you'll get back. I believe that as well. I live my life by that principle.
Definitely.
And talking about, some of your, success in business as well, I wanted to ask you, when you guys were on the Equalation, maybe it was when you were on the Equalation journey, or maybe it was more recently with everything that's happened with Forbes and all of these kinds of things, was there a particular moment that, you felt like, oh my gosh, I'm in complete, alignment with the universe here, or I feel like I'm on this insane trajectory, and you kind of felt something shift for you that made you really, maybe cemented some of that self-belief that we were talking about earlier? Was there a pivotal moment or something that you felt shift?
It's kind of like we made it moment, those sorts of things.
Yeah, those
a lot
kinds
of people ask
things.
those questions, and I always try and speak about our story, and how fortunate we've been in our successes. I do believe Amal and I are two really humble people. You won't ever see us kind of being, chauvinistic or anything like that. We are really humbled, and we're humbled by our success today.
That. Yeah.
And also, in saying that as well, I'm not going to sit here and say that we've got it all figured out. And like any business person, we run a risk every day. Being in business is a risk, look at COVID, that happened overnight, and there would have been bulletproof businesses that one from the outside would have thought could never go down, that put a clothes sign on their door. So I don't think you can ever be ignorant to the fact that, you know, there'll always be challenges and things like that. But in terms of those high points, and where I could say that, you know, we definitely had some moments that we were like, kind of like pinch me, like there's been, you know, things like hiring staff and like just seeing those numbers multiply. Like once upon a time, it was, you know, 4 people in the foyer of our first home together, and we were on Kmart tables, and then we moved to an office and got Apple computers, and then, you know, 4 became 8, and then 8 became 12, and then we had a tech team that was in a different location, and there was 8 full-time of them, and then our books got up to like 28 full-time employees. It was just like crazy, you know? So you have like little moments like that, and then people come knocking on your door. So like we had Bauer Media approach us a year and a half ago to write a book. And I can tell you from the earliest age, I actually studied journalism. So my background, my degree is law and journalism. And I just love writing. And even now I do all the copy for Equalution. I do all the newsletters, all the vocals, anything you read, it's like me.
It's you.
And I love it. I could do it till the day I die. I will do it till the day I die. But then Bauer Media offered us a book deal, and you just like, you have little moments like that where like you grow in staff or you move offices, and it's special. Like they're special moments because you're like, they're opportunities, and they're ones that like, if you told little you that this would happen, you would have just like pinched yourself.
Yeah.
So I think in those times, it's really important to stop and smell the roses. And I think Amal and I have had moments of reminding each other of that as well. You know, there's times where we've stopped each other in our tracks and just been like, you know, just be like, let's give thanks for what's here now. Like, I know we've got a lot to do. Like even now, like we have so much to do. We have so many internally. We're making a lot of changes. We're hiring seniors. We're moving into a dimension of business that is quite elite, and it's really scary for the both of us. And there's all these things that we need to do, but I really do believe it's important to look back on what you have done as well. And we always try and keep each other grounded with that.
I think you do that really well. I feel like you both are very humble, very grounded, and very grateful as well. Like even just hearing you speak today, like it's always about, yes, there's a lot more to do, but that doesn't take away or negate the fact that I'm grateful for where I'm at and what I already have.
Yeah, definitely.
And I think that's such a beautiful place to be operating from. And talking about all of the sort of future things that you guys are working on, like you said, you know, you're taking Equalution to another level. Yet again, you know, what does that look like for you? What's next for Equalution and for you personally as well?
I think Equalution being in the tech space gives a lot of opportunity for things that in Australia we don't really understand as a culture, because they are very advanced and we're really behind the times in terms of tech. So I think where the product is going is quite cool, and I think there's, you know, a pretty clear roadmap of what that looks like. But I think the exciting thing for Amal and I, probably personally, are the fact that we now are business women, and we're confident, established business women. So what we've learned is we are not. There was a point in time where we were Equalution, and you know, we couldn't go to a party or something like that without someone, you know, sort of talking about Equalution. But now we're kind of establishing ourselves as, you know, I am Jade and I'm a businesswoman, and Equalution is part of, you know, how I got here, and it's part of my story, and, you know, will always be part of my future because it's part of me, but it's not all of me. So I think what is most exciting about the future is the fact that we've become our own little vessels for whatever business throws at us, you know, whether that be in the company that we're in, whether it be helping others in their own companies from like a mentoring perspective, whether it be, you know, inventing, not inventing anything, whether it be investing as like, you know, venture capitalists or something like that. I just think it looks bright now because we know who we are. That was important, because at one point I didn't know who I was outside of Equalution. That was one of the darker, sadder times, was just the fact that was just working so bloody hard. I didn't even know what I wanted to do with my spare time because I didn't have any. And then when I had it, I was like, well, I just know how to work in this one business. So, you know, I think, yeah, I'm excited for the future because I think Equalution has got a very bright future because it's like I said to you, it's a business that stands for something, and it always will. But on the byproduct of that, it's exciting just being a business person now, just being a confident business person to be able to say, like, if I want to do something, I'm going to go do it. That's nice.
So powerful.
Yeah.
I love
Yeah.
that. And talking about, you touched on earlier the book deal, and you're officially an author now.
Weird. So weird, but
I Donut Diet. I love that title.
Amal came up with that.
It's so clever.
Yeah, Amal
It's
came up
really,
with it.
really clever.
Yeah.
And how, I want to ask you how you actually went about the process of writing the book, because I heard you talk about this previously, and you said you were doing it outside of work hours.
Yeah.
What was the thought process? How did you actually, like, again, maybe it comes down to discipline. How did you actually structure that?
It wasn't hard, if I'm honest with you. Like, it was a lot of hours, but it came so easy because it was so much fun. It was so much fun. There was a lot of behind the scenes work as well. Like, Brie helped me a lot with just like, my downfall in life is just sorting. I'm like a bag of M&Ms of all different colors, and I need someone to sort all the colors out and just put them in piles, because otherwise I'm just like this just this bunch of just all these different colors that need sorting out. So I'm very fortunate that I have a great team, and Brie helped me a lot with the book in terms of, like, I wrote the chapters, and then, you know, we'd collate the content and send it over by the due date for you know, the first review and all that kind of stuff. So I was very lucky to have her she just keeps me in check. She just keeps me in line.
Sounds like it.
And in check. But ultimately, I don't know, I'm a creative and a bit of a visionary. So in terms of what the book looked like, I knew before I wrote it. Really, it was just so, like, I knew exactly what I had all the chapters in my head.
In your head, yeah.
And even in terms of writing structure, like, I just used to prop myself up in, you know, a comfy spot in my house, and it was honestly a piece of cake. I just kept writing and writing. It was just really...
That's such an unusual response, because a lot of people, when I ask them that question, they say it was such a hard task. It took me years to sit down and write a book. But I suppose when you've already know what it is that you want to say, when you've already got it mapped up in your mind, it's just kind of transferring from your mind to paper.
It was Equalution. I know Equalution like the back of my palm. So writing the book was, and I think as well, have never really had an issue being quite expressive in terms of how I feel. You know, words have always come quite easy for me, and the dieting journey is a very emotional one. And having been my customer before, and having gone through the journey myself, and then also being quite emotionally in tune, I think just it all married together, and just the writing process was, it was fairly straightforward. I think the hardest thing about it was just obviously there's a science, so I had to, you know, brush up on the research and whatnot, and
the technical aspects of it.
Just that. But
I feel like you might have another book or some more books up your sleeve. Would that be an accurate statement? Yeah. Do you have an idea about what are some of the things you would want to be writing about?
Yeah. Definitely. I think book 2, like I said to you, my journey as an entrepreneur has been very much deciphering who I am separate from Equalution, because they did morph into one being at one point. And so obviously, even when I was writing the book, it was all about Equalution. But then as I was writing the book, I was like, it's like health and your mindset and your relationship with food and your relationship with yourself is so much about personal discovery as well. And so I think on the flip side of that, I do think there's a part 2 to the whole story. You know, I think nail your food is a great way to be a better version of yourself. But then, you know, in our business, there's a lot of other dimensions. And like I said, earlier on as well, I think a business operating system is always transferable to a life operating system. And I feel like when I'm in a place where I can confidently, write about that in a way that I feel is relatable to the everyday person, because like I said, I would never want anyone to feel like anything's out of their league, or, it's like proportionate to whatever they believe they can achieve. Then I'd love to do book 2 to be more life related.
Yeah. I would love to see that come into
Love
fruition.
to write it.
Yeah,
Itching to write again.
love that. And I've got one final question for you before we jump into our rapid fire round. And it's a bit of a loaded question, but I feel like you're someone that can handle it, because we've already kind of touched on this, and it is around purpose. And the question that I like to ask a lot of my guests is, out of all of the things that you do, what is the number one thing that you want to be remembered for the most?
Oh, I have goosebumps. That just made me, this makes me, this is an emotional question.
I know it is. I know it's I know it's a big question.
No, I love it. I love it because I've had to really reflect on it as of late, because, life doesn't stop at 29. And for a lot of business people, it doesn't stop at, where your business is at that particular point. There's always a next step and a next chapter and a next phase and what happens after and whatnot. And I think it's really important and strategic to think about that. But one thing I'm really extremely passionate about, is health and fitness, the space itself, but ultimately just making people the best version of themselves. Because when I focused on that, that's when I was able to make other people better versions of themselves. So I just know how powerful it can be. I just know how, and that looks different to every person. I use health and fitness and a weight loss journey as a really great example. 1 year, one person might be, eating takeaway every single night and neglecting their health. And then the next year they might be walking for 30 minutes every morning at the start of their day and just having a balanced diet. And on the byproduct of that is they might be 25 kilos less and feeling the best they've ever felt. So I just really understand the power in, good habits, habit stacking, and being the best version of yourself. If I was put here for any reason, I hope whatever comes of my ventures in the future will ultimately be little vessels of achieving that greater vision, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, you're already doing that. You're already changing lives. And I think that's such a powerful purpose and mission. So really shines through in everything that you do.
I think when Amal and I first started Equalution, we had this common ground and we still do, we had this common ground that we wanted to change the way the world saw food, and we wanted to change the way people viewed nutrition. And I think there's so much power in that. But I think what has changed for myself personally as an ideology is just that health is just multifaceted. It's just so multifaceted. I think food is such a powerful part of it, but I also think movement is such a powerful part of it. I also think mindset is such a powerful part of it. And I also think self-confidence is a powerful part of it. And I think there's little things that you can do on a daily basis that ultimately, check those boxes. And, I think James Clear in his book, Atomic Habits, says it great.
I bought it. It's my next book in line. I can't wait.
It's a goodie. 1% better each day on after 365 days, the proof is in the pudding. You've ultimately compounded little efforts and created a better version of yourself, and they're small. So
absolutely.
I hope that's why I'm here, to help others with that.
Yeah, you're already doing that, and it's just going to become more and more and more. It's so exciting. Yes. And I want to finish off with our rapid fire round. And the first question I wanted to ask you is, what is one piece of advice that you would give to your 20-year-old self?
Just, if you have a dream, and if it is in the business space, which was very dominant for me, I had a very, very strong and contagious drive to succeed. And I wanted to succeed in the professional space. But there's also a very beautiful other side of life that involves friends, family, memories, things that can't be monetized, things that can't be quantified, their experiences. And I think that you really need to, 20-year-old Jade, strike that balance as early as you can. That's what I would say to her, because I think there was a time where there was a little bit of an imbalance, and I think it took a mental toll. And, you know, I spend a lot of time now with my family, and I do have little moments where I'm like, there could have been a few more of these back in the early 20s, but, you know, you live and you learn. And I think, you know, I think it's a really important part of life just to appreciate the finer things and appreciate the things that have sentimental meaning.
Oh, I could not agree with you more. I love that. Question 2 is what is one thing that you've gotten better at saying no to? Could be like invitations, requests, anything.
Being okay with things that are not okay, because I feel like I don't like to think of myself as someone that settles, but I think sometimes the easier route, especially when you do deal with a lot of stresses, whether it be in business or whether it be in like your personal life because you're under stress in the business or whatnot, I think you have a tendency just to be like, oh, just let that fly. And I feel like I've gotten a little bit better at saying, no, that's like not okay. You know, it's not okay. So I think just being able to differentiate what you feel comfortable with versus what makes you uncomfortable, and filtrating those things that make you get the ick.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that makes perfect
Yeah.
sense. Question 3 is what is the best investment that you've ever made?
Into myself, for sure. Taking time out, whether, you know, that looked like maybe I wasn't as productive in the office that day. Maybe, you know, I didn't get the whole to-do list done. Things that I would have probably beaten myself up for back in the days where I was burning the candle at both ends. There was a little period of time where I really needed to just get in touch again, because I was just working too hard that I had to reintroduce myself to myself. And I think, yeah, that's the best investment I ever made. Just taking the time to do that, and then also having the balls to be able to say something's not right at this point in time.
Yeah, oh, so powerful. Question 4 is what is one motto, quote, or saying that you live by?
The only way out is through that's my bee's knees quote. I always say it. I just think, yeah, there's a light at the end of the tunnel, but in any hard time, even in any good time, you know, sometimes good times don't always last either, but just sort of straight through the tough turf, and then you gotta get to the other side.
It's a great quote to live by. Yeah. And what final question is what habit, routine, or ritual has most positively impacted your life?
Morning movement, for sure.
Yeah.
Training of the morning has been my definite key trendsetter, tone setter for the rest of the day. So I really need to do that at the start.
Yeah, I agree completely. And Jade, where are the best places for, you know, people already know you and know Equalution, but for those who might not know you personally, or this might be the first interaction, where's the best place for people to find you and learn more about Equalution and all of those kinds of things?
Well, hello, new people. It's lovely to meet you. You can find me personally on Instagram. My handle is @Jade Spooner. Very simple. Don't overcomplicate it. I'd also encourage you to follow my business partner, Amal, as well. So her handle is @amal.wakim. And then our business is Equalution. I know it's a bit of a mouthful, but it's like equal and then UTION. So that's Equalution. Our Instagram page is great. It's really informative, and it will kind of get you asking those questions as to perhaps why your nutritional practices are not working for you currently. And then off the back end of that, we've got an amazing mobile app which we facilitate customized nutrition through, and you can find that on the App Store or head to our website www.equalution.com. And on the shelves is my book, I Do Not Diet.
Yes, so exciting. And we'll put all the links for those in the show notes
Yeah,
as
sorry,
well.
it's a lot. That was a lot for everyone. Sorry.
Not at all.
Find
It's
us
all
everywhere.
it's all good things. And before we wrap up, do
Mm.
you have any final, messages, anything that you'd like to leave our listeners with, any final thoughts, anything like that?
I think I've just tried to be really honest with people in sort of saying that, like, I know that there are a lot of people that have been quite vocal in terms of their business journey, and you look at people that have gone through success and you think, like, that's exactly what I want to do and whatnot, but just understand that there are so many dimensions to people's journeys, and much like Instagram, it is a highlight reel for a lot of the time in what you see from the outside looking in, but it's hard, but I do think that hard things are well worth it in the end. I really do believe that. So if you're someone that's sitting on an idea, validate it first, like I said. If you're someone that's sitting on an idea, or you want a little bit more out of life, and it looks like you've got some track work to do before you get to the end, I'm sure it will be worth it. But just know that not every journey is glamorous.
Great advice. And I think that's a great place to wrap up.
Thank
Jade,
you for
it's
having
been
me.
so much fun having you on the show. I've absolutely loved this conversation. I know our audience and listeners will as well. So thank you so much for doing this with me.
Thank you for having me. I've had so much fun too. You've been great to chat to. And congratulations on your own success too. Even the fact of having like this platform where you can educate other women, I just think hats off to you. I think it's phenomenal.
Thank you so much.
Can't wait to see what you do.
Thank you so much. Such a pleasure to have you on.
Thank you.